Chapter name: Leadership. Clause 5 of the ISO 14001:2015. In this video session, we will explain you Clause 5, which talks about the leadership, commitment, environmental policy, and roles, responsibilities, and authorities of the organization. This clause provides guidance on how the organization demonstrates leadership and commitment in relation to the environmental management system in its development, implementation, and improvement. This clause is further divided into three subclauses. Subclause 5.1 Leadership and Commitment. Subclause 5.2 Environmental Policy. Subclause 5.3 Organizational Roles, Responsibilities and Authorities. Clause 5.1 Leadership and Commitment. This subclause requires that the leadership, commitment, and active support from top management are critical for the success of your environmental management system and for the achievement of its intended outcomes. The top management approves an organization's mission, vision, and values, considering its context, the needs and expectations of its relevant interested parties, and business objectives. These are reflected in its strategic business plans. Top management's leadership and commitment are vital for the successful implementation of an effective environmental management system. As such, top management must take responsibility for the effectiveness of the organization's environmental management system and ensure its intended outcomes are achieved. If employees observe top management taking environmental responsibility seriously, this will greatly assist in the establishment of a positive environmental culture throughout the organization. Top management should support others in the organization in relevant managerial roles so that they in turn can demonstrate leadership in their own area of responsibility. Through this means, top management's leadership and commitment cascades down through the organization. By demonstrating leadership and commitment, top management can direct and support employees of the organization and others doing work on its behalf to achieve the intended outcomes of its environmental management system. The organization is in a better position to achieve its environmental objectives and to identify opportunities for improvement when top management creates a culture that encourages people at all levels to actively participate in the environmental management system. Now, let's explain you clause 5.2, which states the environmental policy of the organization. Let's understand what is an environmental policy. An environmental policy is a formal and documented set of principles with respect to the environment. It is the guiding document for environmental improvement. Adhering to the environmental policy is fundamental to the integrity and success of your environmental management system. The policy must be approved by top management of the company. It is important that the policy is not just a public relation or paper exercise. Top management must take responsibility for ensuring that they are seen to proactively work to the principles in the environmental policy. If the policy is to be effectively implemented and real environmental improvement achieved, lower levels of management and employees across the company will only take environmental performance seriously if top management convey this message consistently through their decisions and actions. There is a risk that employees may feel that the policy has no real bearing on their particular work activities. If they do not understand how it was developed, consider involving employees from various functions and levels in the organization when formulating the policy to encourage buy-in and a sense of ownership. We can also explain it that the environmental policy is the mechanism by which top management formally expresses its commitment to improving its environmental performance. A successful environmental policy must contain the following minimum points. Point 1. The environmental policy should be in line to the organization objectives and purposes, including the nature, scale, and environmental impacts of its activities, products, and services. Point 2. This should provide a framework to set the environmental objectives and targets. Point 3. It must include a commitment to the protection of the environment, including prevention of pollution and other specific requirements relevant to the context of the organization. Point 4. It shall also include a commitment to fulfill compliance obligations. Point 5. It shall include a commitment to continual improvement of the environmental management system to enhance environmental performance. Further, the environmental policy shall: Point 1. Be maintained as a documented information. Point 2. Be communicated within the organization. Point 3. Be available to all interested parties. The EMS policy is an important policy of the organization and it shall be approved by top management, and the objectives and targets must be explained, and it shall be ensured that every concerned person have understood their roles and responsibilities as required. The policy must be kept as a document and to be communicated to external persons like contractors, vendors, or suppliers. The environmental policy should be reviewed periodically to ensure that it remains relevant and appropriate to the organization. Now, let's understand the subclause 5.3, which addresses the roles, responsibilities, and authorities of an organization. This subclause addresses the organization roles, responsibilities, and authorities. The requirement states that the top management must ensure that the roles and responsibilities must be defined in accordance with the EMS policy. The same shall be communicated to all concerned within time and it should be clear to them. They all must work as per their roles and responsibilities. Top management shall ensure that the responsibilities and authorities for relevant roles are assigned and communicated within the organization. Top management shall assign the responsibility and authority for: Point 1. Ensuring that the environmental management system conforms to the requirements of this international standard. Point 2. Reporting on the performance of the environmental management system, including environmental performance, to top management. We can say that the top management is ultimately responsible for the environmental management system, even if the day-to-day decisions related to environmental performance are delegated to others. What is delegated and to whom should be clearly and unambiguously communicated so that everyone understands who is responsible for what. We have to be vigilant and care should be taken with the clarification of responsibilities at the interfaces between different functions. For example, between departments, between different levels of management, between employees, between the organization and contractors, and between the organization and its neighbors. Now, let's read the clause 5 and its subclauses 5.1, 5.2, and 5.3 as explained in standard. 5.1. Leadership and commitment. Top management shall demonstrate leadership and commitment with respect to the environmental management system by: Point 1. Taking accountability for the effectiveness of the environmental management system. Point 2. Ensuring that the environmental policy and environmental objectives are established and are compatible with the strategic direction and the context of the organization. Point 3. Ensuring the integration of the environmental management system requirements into the organization's business processes. Point 4. Ensuring that the resources needed for the environmental management system are available. Point 5. Communicating the importance of effective environmental management and of conforming to the environmental management system requirements. Point 6. Ensuring that the environmental management system achieves its intended outcomes. Point 7. Directing and supporting persons to contribute to the effectiveness of the environmental management system. Point 8. Promoting continual improvement. Point 9. Supporting other relevant management roles to demonstrate their leadership as it applies to their areas of responsibility. Note: reference to business in this international standard can be interpreted broadly to mean those activities that are core to the purpose of the organization's existence. 5.2. Environmental policy. Top management shall establish, implement, and maintain an environmental policy that within the defined scope of its environmental management system. Point A is appropriate to the purpose and context of the organization, including the nature, scale, and environmental impacts of its activities, products, and services. Point 2 provides a framework for setting environmental objectives. Point 3 includes a commitment to the protection of the environment, including prevention of pollution and other specific commitments relevant to the context of the organization. Point 4 includes a commitment to fulfill its compliance obligations. Point 5 includes a commitment to continual improvement of the environmental management system to enhance environmental performance. The environmental policy shall be maintained as documented information, be communicated within the organization, be available to interested parties. 5.3 Organizational roles, responsibilities, and authorities. Top management shall ensure that the responsibilities and authorities for relevant roles are assigned and communicated within the organization. The top management shall assign the responsibility and authority for Point 1. Ensuring that the environmental management system conforms to the requirements of this international standard. Point 2. Reporting on the performance of the environmental management system, including environmental performance to top management. Now, we will explain how to write non-conformity under this clause 5.2. If you understood the requirements of this clause and subclause which must be implemented in an organization, then you can verify the implementation of the same and findings can be raised and will be categorized as non-conformity. You may categorize it minor or major by analyzing the impacts of findings. To better understand the writing of findings, kindly refer the AFAR sample format through this slide. Now, let's understand common mistakes which auditors do while verifying the documents and records of the organization during audit under this clause. Point 1. No verification of documentation part while reviewing the policy. Point 2. Sometimes auditors start thinking for the option while auditors need to understand the organization process of EMS monitoring, measurement, and evaluation. Point 3. Auditors start consulting activities, then emphasizing on audit verification. Point 4. Auditors asking for FSSAI license or any other registration certificates like GST, ROC, etc., which did not require or applicable on the organization. Dear friends, we have now come to the conclusion of this training session. See you soon with an exciting new topic. Till then, goodbye.